absolutely thrilled to be here today. My jet lag is superseded by the excitement I have and revealing a very first for SONOS in terms of entering a new category. So my name is Rebecca Bryce, as Kate mentioned. I'm a program manager for this particular project. I feel like project doesn't give it enough oomph, because this really has been our lives, our driving force for the past few years, and something that we've all worked so hard on. And I'm very excited to bring you all here today, this group in Australia, in Sydney, to reveal for the first time a first for SONOS. So if I had to go back and just to give us a little bit of background, which I'm sure you're all fairly familiar with. When SONOS was founded back in 2002, the vision was to have wireless audio available in every room in the home. This was a quantum leap from the days of room-dominating stereo equipment with huge libraries of physical media. You can now stream any song on the internet in any room of the home that you wanted. If we fast forward to today, music and how we consume music, the amount of music and content that we're consuming on a day-to-day basis is really huge. So whether that's audiobooks while we're commuting or podcasts while we're running errands, it really is just monumental. And SONOS really are able to provide, in terms of every aspect of your day-to-day lives, an access point in there. So, yeah. So, with its perfect combination of elegant hardware and intuitive software, SONOS has become synonymous with leading sound innovation, and we've continued to bring the simple, out loud listening everywhere you go. So whether that's the backyard pool, your home theatre setup, or your backpack, we have something for pretty much every experience. But for years, fans have very strongly recommended, suggested, demanded that we bring SONOS's leading sound innovation to one very specific product category. So, after years of meticulously detailed design, obsessive fine-tuning, we are thrilled to announce a first for SONOS. Ta-da!
Industrial design and colors, materials, and finishes for SONOS. And I'm very excited to tell you a bit more about the design rationale and the thinking that went behind the team designing SONOS Ace. So at SONOS design, the design is not really about following a specific fashion point of view or applying any kind of styling trend to the product. Instead, often when we start on something new, we have this North Star that we often lean into, which is this design principle of form follows function. So that really forces our design team to focus on our listener and on our user, and really carefully think about the needs and the wants of the user and the context where these products are used in. Through that, then we're able to create products that are kind of joyful to use and inclusive and experiences that are kind of fit for as many people as possible. So, as you know, by now, SONOS Ace is our first wearable product and our kind of entry to the wearables category. So this actually presented a really great opportunity for the design team to kind of really think about our timeless design language and think about what are some meaningful ways we could progress it and evolve it with this more holistic focus on comfort and fit and ergonomics. So in the end, it was kind of at the same time when we were doing that, so the comfort was in the front and center straight from the get-go in all of our conversations throughout the design process. And at the same time, we were wanting to create also something that would feel unique to the market and would really capture that timeless and calm look and feel of Sonos design that we're known for. So in order to strike that balance between the premium look and feel and the fit and ergonomics, we had to get very creative how we thought about the construction and some of the mechanisms and materials and even the hardware UI that went into SONOS Ace. So in the end, I think we landed in a very, very great place. So we have a very geometric form that feels very calm. And the design does a great job in taking all that new innovative technology and that kind of wonderful mechanical complexity and making it feel a bit more human and approachable. Can you grab a sip of water? So one of those things that we did that Rebecca touched on that makes the product feel more approachable and calm is something we call the internal yoke. So that's the hinge mechanism that allows the cup to adjust and move to create that kind of good compression against your ear and the good seal for the world-class ANC. So some of the products out in the market have this hinge mechanism is external, which kind of breaks the form. So we're trying to think of it really from the user point of view and make sure that there's no parts that are moving that might snag your hair when you're putting the product on and when you're taking it off. And by making that mechanism internal, then we also get a very, very kind of clean geometric look that will stay relevant for a long time. Another thing to say about the cup is that this form, that we call a racetrack, is actually familiar to the Sonos hardware portfolio. So, for example, if you look at the end cap of Sonos Arc, this is our flagship soundbar, you find a similar kind of racetrack form in there, or even in the top cap of Move 2. But that wasn't the reason, the portfolio parity wasn't the reason we chose this racetrack shape. It was more because that's the perfect shape to accommodate different size ears. And really, it gives you that ample amount of space, even for earrings, and really makes you feel like your ear is floating in space and nothing is touching it. We also added this, something we called the waistline. So if you pick up the Sonos Ace, so waistline is this edge that gives the soft form a little bit of definition. But it also creates this nice landing strip for all these features, such as the microphones, vents, ports, and the hardware UI. The last thing that the design team came up with, which I think is very clever, is the theme of directionality. So one of the common pain points we ran into through our extensive research we did was this of just customers when they're handling headphones is to figuring out what's left, what's right, what's the front, what's the back of the product. So we added some visual cues to help and aid with that, that also give the product kind of nice character and fairly unique look. So if you spin around the headphone in your hand like this, you can see that little kind of kink or corner here in the headband that gives it kind of dynamic look. So that's a visual cue together with the angled head cups and the single-sided logo that tells you like what's the front, what's the back of the product. In addition to, we did some beautiful color blocking, so another visual cue and aid inside. So the right-hand cup always has this accent color, which is light gray for the dark skew and this misty green for the soft white skew. So that's kind of at very high level, few things in relation to the form and design. So let's move forward and talk a little bit about comfort. So comfort in this category is one of the top consumer considerations when purchasing a new headphone. So it's right there behind high kind of audio quality. So as I mentioned, straight from the get-go, we knew that we had to create something that would feel comfortable to match the 30-day battery life this product offers.
30 hour or 30 day?
30 hours, yeah. And the way we got there was we did extensive amount of very rigorous research, user research, comfort testing, benchmarking, and we had a very diverse set of participants that we engaged with that were different age, gender, different head size, shape, individual styles, long hair, short hair, scarves, glasses, no glasses, earrings, and so forth. And we tested multiple different designs and prototypes in order to land in a place, in a comfortable place where we wanted to be with the long day comfort. And over the course of 24 months or 25 months or so, I think number was 600 participants altogether we engaged with. We did over 400 hours of interviews and nearly 180 hours of comfort testing. And some of the insights then helped us to perfect the curve for the headband that Rebecca was touching on earlier on. So the idea with this curve is to ensure that the product is very stable in your head and it evenly distributes the weight. And furthermore, we worked very closely with the mechanical engineering to try to extend the foam inside the headband to as far down as possible to avoid any kind of hot spots. Second was the insight to the kind of shape of the ear cups. So I talked about how that racetrack form is really perfect for different sizes of ears. And another thing that we did to accommodate earrings and the different ear sizes was to angle the cushion from inside. So this is something we call a mesh basket in here. So that's angled to follow the kind of contour of your ear to give it the space it needs. So that's a little bit background of the comfort and fit, and then I wanted to mention a few things about the hardware, UI, and the control. So the challenge when you're designing, obviously, for a wearable product, when you're thinking about the control, is that you're operating the product blindly. So it's blind usage, very heavy cognitive load. You cannot see what you're pressing. So it makes sense that touch capacitive technology that we use elsewhere in our portfolio was out of question because it's kind of prone to maybe errors or kind of misactivations when you cannot see the hardware you're operating or using. So we knew that we had to come up with something that would be predictable, memorable, and very intuitive. And that's how we landed on this solution that is unique to the market called Content Key. So this is a mechanical slider that slides up and down, and you can press it as well. And it really gives you that tactile confidence when you're operating the product that you want when you're on the go and you cannot see the UI. And it's in a way a mechanical interpretation of our volume slider that we introduced in the Era family products. And also it's in the Move 2. And at very high level, then we decided to have this very clear mental model with the hardware UI between the right cup and the left cup. So on the left cup, we have the power and pairing. There are functions that you don't use on that regular basis, and the charging. And then on the right-hand side, we have the controls that are used on more regular basis. So that's control. Let's touch a bit on the sustainability next before we move to the color, material, and finishes in the end. So at Sonos, the focus on sustainability for industrial design and CMF, that's a very, very meaningful way for us to think how we progress our design language and color palette as well. And we're committed to creating long-lasting products that use less energy, and kind of incorporate sustainable and circular materials. So for Sonos Ace, we've been able to include 17% of post-consumer recycled plastics, which is fairly decent for the category. The reason we weren't able to add more is because headphones are under a lot of tension, they are exposed to a lot of wear and tear throughout the use and throughout the day. So in order to really match the high quality bar that Sonos is known for, we had to add virgin plastic content to kind of get that strength. Second is in relation to energy usage. So we have this wear detection technology that is integrated in here that helps to extend the battery life, reduce the amount of charging. So how that works is when you're playing content, you take the headphones off, the content stops automatically and continues when you put them back on. We also used polyurethane, vegan leather for the headband cushion and for the ear cushions. So that's there for its strength and because it provides a kind of great natural acoustic seal for the world-class ANC, but also because it's very easy to wipe clean, so we can keep the product looking new much longer. We don't have any kind of fabric that would get stained or smudged from makeup or skin oils or any kind of hair products. Also, the polyurethane vegan leather is actually more sustainable than cowhide-based leather and has lower carbon emissions when you look at the bigger picture. And then it's replaced for ear cushions. So that was a great question earlier on. So this is the part, as you well noted, that is exposed to most wear and tear in any headphone. So we knew straight from the get-go that in order to kind of, again, to meet the high quality bar and ensure the longevity of the product, we had to have easily user-replaceable cushions. So, as I mentioned earlier on, we landed the solution is magnets, so the ear cushions come off very easily, and we reversed the magnets so that you cannot misplace the wrong cushion on the wrong side, so they only snap on when they're in the correct place. Lastly, I'll touch quickly on this travel case. So this is the travel case, very slim profile that comes with SONOS Ace. And the contour and the footprint follows kind of the soft shape of the ear cup. And this travel case is made with 75% recycled polyester felt. So that's, again, a bit more sustainable material for the case, and we have a little pouch inside that can have all your cables inside that also magnetically attaches to inside of the case. All right, everyone's still good? We can move into the colors, materials, and finishes next. And we start with color. So you've noticed that we have the SONOS black and soft white versions in here. So really, when it comes to CMF and color, we're committed to kind of delivering a simplified color palette that is really relevant to the ways our listeners and customers and owners live. So in the case of SONOS Ace, we wanted to have colors that would work both for the indoor and outdoor environments, and that would kind of be in ease with all the different individual styles, and also be inclusive when it comes to skin color. So we still believe that the dark and light SKUs as core SKUs are the right answers for that. And let me start with this SONOS black. So this is the same black that you see across our whole hardware portfolio. So this is, very, very timeless, kind of comes across as professional, has nice ties back into audio and to the wearables category as well. Instead of going with the more kind of high contrast, polished, natural steel finish in here, we wanted to tone it down a bit, so we applied something called physical vapor deposition. It's a fancy string of words. It's a PVD coating for short. So that actually makes it increases the durability of the metal. and it gave us the tone kind of we wanted that's a bit more subtle and feels a bit more elegant. Then for the white version or light skew, we felt like the SONOS white we used elsewhere in the portfolio felt a bit too techy and it didn't feel very inclusive, so we wanted to find a white that was softer and warmer, that was more inclusive for different skin tones. So maybe I can grab that one. Thank you so much. So that paired with the high precision, polished, natural steel finish parts gives this skew a bit more character and a bit more pop, while still feeling very calm and elegant. And as I mentioned earlier on, we have the kind of beautiful, subtle accent color story that is in the inside of the product, and it continues to the inside to the case of the soft white skew as well. The black case is all black from outside and from inside. All right, we're almost there. Please stay with me. So talk a little bit about our approach to materials in general. So we had when we approached to the materials, we had a very strong rationale that was informed by the user experience of wearable products. So we wanted the product to feel premium, yet lightweight and soft and comfortable when you're wearing it. So instead of over-indexing on very light materials and using a lot of plastics that might feel the product feel cheap, or then whether over-indexing on the other direction where we would put a lot of metal which would weigh the kind of product down and make it maybe uncomfortable, we try to find a fine balance and be very sympathetic to the functionality of the materials and where we use them. So we ended up using lighter materials in the areas where kind of weight is important, or RF transparency for the antennas, or flexibility. And then the metal is applied in areas where we need more structure or strength, such as the extension arms, or the microphone grills that are chemically etched metal parts, where we can, with that process, we can control the pattern and make sure that we can tune those microphones to perfection for that world-class ANC. And obviously then we wanted softer material in the inside that is easy to clean, memory foam on the ear cushions that would really give you that plush, pillowy comfort that lasts long, the whole day. Lastly, a few words on the finish. So as you can see, both black and the soft white skew has this sleek matte finish to them, which kind of makes it more calm and very elegant. And one clever thing we did in there, we applied this anti-fingerprint coating that makes sure that the product stays looking good even after longer periods of use. And it also makes the product easier to kind of wipe clean with the wet cloth. Very last point is in relation to the SONOS logo. So our logo in this case is functional. So as you can see, it's only applied to the right-hand side. So that kind of weaves in back to the story of directionality. But also the way we've executed this logo is we're using laser to track down this very complex curved surface to etch off the few top layers of the paint to reveal this high gloss finish that really plays kind of nicely with the polished metal accents. But also this kind of gives the logo a little bit of a texture, so when you're wearing the product and you're trying to find the content key, you can feel the texture that will, you know that eventually that will lead you into the content key if you need to play, pause the content or adjust the volume. So that's everything I had in today. I don't know if I went much over time, but thank you so much for listening, and please let me know if you have any questions for me or anyone else.
Why the SONOS logo is so subtle, it's so small and only on one cup. You know, many of the other manufacturers let you know that you're wearing Sennheiser or Sony or whatever.
Yeah,
let everyone else know.
Yeah, that's a great question. Our intention is in a way to create technology that lasts for a long time. We didn't want to plaster a logo in the headband and both cups and to use an American automotive sport, we didn't want to make the product look like a NASCAR with all these logos. So we call that we're, in a way, trying to domesticate the technology to make it more calm. And with these things like the angled headbands, the shape of the cup, the internal yoke mechanism, those give the product a very strong first read that will eventually make it recognizable as a Sonos product. So the logo is there to support that, and we want to keep it more subtle, and in a way it adds to that longevity, product staying maybe relevant for a longer time. Great question, thank you.
Is there an option to use a cable?
There is, yes. There's two cables that come with the product. There's USB-C to USB-C for charging, and then we have USB-C to 3.5 millimeter auxiliary. So that's an option as well.
Does the USB-C to USB-C have a DAC that allows you to charge and listen at the same time?
Can Ross? Yeah, I think we can do that, or Rebecca, or anyone? Yeah.
So it will allow you to get lossless from Apple devices as well, because of course they don't do lossless over Bluetooth.
My name is Ross Barber. I head up global training at Sonos, and I have the best job because I get to talk to you about the home theatre innovation and technologies that have gone into the Sonos Ace home theatre experience. So just to start off, kind of set some context, in our research we learned that 80% of people said that they would be willing and actually very comfortable to use a Bluetooth headphone for a home theatre experience. So why would people want to do that? Why would people want to use headphones for home theatre instead of maybe a soundbar? Because the way we look at it is, if you think about, forgive this example, but like a sports car. You know a sports car can go 170 kilometers an hour, but you can't drive it at 170 kilometers an hour all the time unless you're a maniac. So building out a big home theatre surround system with surrounds and height and 3D audio is sort of the same thing, where there's going to be times when you can't drive it at full volume. And so we wanted to make sure that when Sonos Ace was used for home theatre, it could be that sort of gap between out loud listening and personal listening. And we wanted to create this product which could deliver a really, really immersive home theatre experience without sacrificing any of the benefits. And so we look at it as like, when you're wearing Sonos Ace, we want you to feel like you're in the sweet spot of a perfectly balanced, perfectly tuned home theatre system with side channels, surrounds, but clear left, centre, right. And that's sort of what we've set out to do. But we also wanted to make sure that we had some of that Sonos innovation in there. So when we think about home theatre with Sonos Ace, we look at it as sort of 4 features. There's the TV audio swap, so the ability to send sound from your TV to Sonos Ace. Then there's the spatial audio, of course, which spatial audio has been done before, but there isn't really any clear examples of it being done well with externalization, something that convinces you that you're actually listening in the room and not through a pair of headphones. So that's the second part. The third part is the dynamic head tracking, that part that really anchors you in the content, so that when you're moving your head around the room, you really do feel like you're listening in the room and not through a pair of headphones. And then the fourth part is this sort of groundbreaking technology that we've created called TrueCinema. And that's the sort of externalization, that's the part that really makes you feel like you're in the room, because we're taking elements of your room and putting them into the headphones. So I'm going to talk you through how that works. So we set out with a clear vision. That vision was, when you're wearing a pair of Sonos Ace, we want to make sure it feels like you're not wearing headphones at all. There are headphones out there that will pair with your TV, I think you were talking about it, and what you get is a dry stereo signal, and it does the job. It doesn't wake up the neighbors, but you're very, very aware that you're listening through a pair of headphones. We also wanted to make sure that you felt like you were, like I say, surrounded by this perfectly tuned home theatre system. And that's the sort of gap that we're trying to fill, is this ability to create that tie in the gap between listening out loud and personalised listening. I think the thing that's really interesting here is that we have a very unique ability to do this. So we have this connected system, right? People are already using sound bars from Sonos in their home. So if anybody's going to actually be able to go out there and tie that gap between out loud and personalized listening, it's us, because what we can do is we can use the products that are in your existing home to measure that room and then tie in that gap. So that's why we feel like we're very uniquely positioned to be able to deliver on our goal of kind of giving you this home theater experience, which very much feels like an out loud experience, but through headphones. And of course, you know, there's plenty of moments when you would want to do that, when perhaps someone's on a call, or it's evening and maybe your kids are asleep, or just quite frankly, you don't want to disturb your neighbours. So that's when that 80% of people are saying, hey, we would absolutely use headphones for home theatre content. And I've tried it myself. There's just plenty of times where you don't want to sacrifice that immersive experience you get when you're watching an action movie by listening very, very quietly. So it just gives another opportunity to deliver, a Sonos product for a home theatre experience. So when we talk about the spatial audio element, this was the sort of school graphs I wanted to show you. So there's sort of two ways we're doing this. I'm going to start by talking about the stereo. So of course everything we're doing for spatial audio with headphones is going to be using binaural. If anyone's not totally familiar with binaural audio, it's essentially two channels of stereo with objects embedded, which gives your head the impression that the sounds are coming from directions when they're actually not, by using frequency and sort of audio trickery, if you like. So we're actually able to take a two-channel stereo stream, because a lot of broadcast TV, a lot of content still comes out in stereo, so we wanted to make sure that this was still rendered and felt like a spatial piece of content. So that will go through our up mixer, where we'll actually create multiple different channels from that stereo content. That becomes that 7.1.4 spatial audio content, and then that gets sent to the Sonos binaural renderer. So we've actually created our own binaural renderer, which gets powered on the soundbar itself, and then that gets delivered out as two-channel binaural to the headphones. So that's just stereo. That's when we start with stereo, and we're actually taking a very conservative approach to that. We've seen different technologies in the past where they try to do virtual surround, virtual spatial, and what ends up happening is they're throwing sounds far left and far right, and in places where they have no business being. We want to try and be authentic to the creator's intent at least, so anchoring that dialogue in the very center channel, places where it should be, but then we'll also take reverb and more subtle nuanced sounds and put them in the rear channels and put them in the height. So suddenly that dry stereo signal that you would have got becomes this immersive spatial experience without sacrificing the intent of where it should have been mixed on the screen.
So all of that technology is in the headphone?
In the headphone and in the soundbar. So this is the way we're tackling it, is that you would require a Sonos soundbar. We have the renderer built on that, and that's how we tie in that out loud to personal listening, and we'll demonstrate that downstairs and how we get that seamless switch. That's a good question to call out. So that's stereo, and then of course we have actual Dolby Atmos 7.1.4 content, which is already mixed in multi-channel spatial, and so we also still have to be very true to that content, because that has specifically been mixed to a certain place, and so we have to make sure we recreate that. And so the way I like to think about it is, if you're listening on Sonos Arc, you know where a certain piece of content would be when you're listening out loud. So we're going to do our best to actually replicate that. When you're wearing Sonos Ace, that content should feel where it is when you're listening out loud in that room. And so that's how we're using binaural. And then I'll talk about the head tracking aspect and how that gets sent back and the benefit that that adds.
So is that just the Arc, or the lower soundbars as well?
So I'm going to cover that, but in essence, at launch, we will support TV audio swap with Arc and Sonos Ace, but there will actually be a fast follow for Beam Gen 2, and even Sonos Ray. But at launch, we're going to be with Arc and Sonos Ace on iOS, and then there'll be a fast follow for the other bars and Android devices.
Sorry, another question.
That's fine.
No TV outputs anything other than SBC codec in 16-bit, 4400 or 4800.
Yeah.
Are you suggesting that if you have a Sonos soundbar, you'll connect Ace to the soundbar via Bluetooth?
Yes, so
or
that's
to the TV?
So we connect Ace to the soundbar, and we will also support 16-bit 48K. But the reason we use the soundbar is because we're actually able to use our own renderer.
That's great.
Yeah, so that's what makes it. That's when people are always talking about what's the Sonos headphone experience going to be, what's that tie-in to the system going to be. This is exactly that. This is where we can do something that most other people can't.
And apologies, but does that mean you can still connect to your TV, but you just get the stereo?
Yeah, I mean, it's a Bluetooth product, so in the same essence that any Bluetooth headphone could connect via Bluetooth to a TV, but you would then get that dry stereo signal that we talked about.
Yeah.
And the fact that we're going to support Ray, I mean, it becomes a very low barrier to entry for people to experience that. So you could even think about, I'm not recommending that we go cannibalize our rear speaker sales, but you could buy a Ray and Sonos Ace, and suddenly you get the impression of the 7.1.4 system without buying a sub and surrounds. But our home theatre product manager's in the room, so he doesn't want to. Okay, so we talked about not wanting to do any damage to the intent of the creator, and so we wanted to make sure that this isn't just sort of words that we're saying. So we have a soundboard at Sonos, and you may have heard us talk about this with different releases in the past, but there's a whole bunch of creators that we work with that are Academy Award winners, BAFTA Award winners. So on this particular product, we worked very closely with Chris Jenkins, who won the Oscar for Mad Max for audio. And in real time, we're able to sit with them in the room, and they will help us not only tune the product itself, but the renderer. So they can listen to content they've mixed on a big Hollywood soundstage and switch between Arc and Ace and say, this isn't far enough, this is too far, trying to keep it authentic to what their intent was. And so that's how we know that we're not doing any damage to the content, even when we're going from stereo to spatial or multi-channel down to binaural. We're working with these creators and not just sitting in a silo and taking our best guess at it. So that's how we keep honouring the creator intent. And I talked briefly about head tracking, and so that these four elements which kind of work together to create that goal, like I said, of making you feel like you're listening out loud. And so head tracking is another part of that. And so the way we think about head tracking is it's really just amplifying everything that we're doing. And so what it does is we're using an inertial measure sensor, so something that's tracking movement, a bit like an accelerometer, and sort of like the technology you see when they're making computer games and people are wearing motion sensors to track the movement. We've done a lot of work to understand the movement and what happens, and we can tie that back to the renderer on the bar through SONOS Ace. So what that means in a nutshell is when you're watching TV content out loud, the sound's coming to you in this direction. When you turn your head, the sound doesn't move with you when you're listening out loud, it stays there. And so we wanted to replicate that with head tracking. So when you're wearing a SONOS Ace and you're centered, after about 5 seconds or so, it will see that as like your true north. And that becomes forward. And as you reach for a blanket or some popcorn or whatever direction you move your head, the sound sort of pivots with you to make, again, you feel like it's anchored on the screen and you're in the content. So it really replicates how that would sound when you're listening out loud in a room. And that can actually be on a 360 plane, so it's up, down, left, all around. The renderer will actually track with the movement of your head. And so again, these layers with the spatial audio, the head tracking, these are the elements which really go to convince that vision of listening out loud through headphones. Now, the last element which kind of really turns this up to 10 is this groundbreaking invention that I talked about at the beginning called TrueCinema. Now, what TrueCinema does is, inherently, when people walk into a room, they have an idea of what that room sounds like, if that makes sense. So when we go downstairs into that carpeted room, you know that it's going to be a little bit more dead, a little drier, because there's carpet everywhere. So you would expect there to be less reverb in your voice. You come up here, there's panels, there's wood floor, you can hear the reverb in this room just when I talk. So when you're used to watching content in a room out loud, you know how that room sounds. And so what we wanted to do was almost like the inverse of TruePlay, where with our TruePlay tuning, we listen to the room and we try to take out any elements which are like negative to the sound experience. We actually want to try and capture some of those elements from your own personal room and blend those into the mix. So not only are you now getting spatial audio through headphones and head tracking to make you feel like you're listening out loud, but you're also actually getting some of the EQ from your own room built into that mix to further convince you that you're listening out loud in your own room. And so we do that very simply. I think I have. So you'd be sitting on the couch like so, and Arc would play a sort of frequency sweep, not dissimilar to the TruePlay tones that you may have heard when you do the nice room dance. And then we capture that on Ace, and then we can analyze it. The whole process is about 60 seconds. And then that blend gets put into the mix using the renderer to, like I said, further convince you that what you're listening to is just your room out loud. And we think that's a really sort of incredible feat. And hopefully when we demonstrate it to you downstairs, you'll understand how it really, really puts like an exclamation mark on that goal of convincing you you're listening out loud. And so the way we're doing that is we're trying to capture all sorts of different elements. So this is actually one of our labs in London. And we're listening for the reverb, the time of arrival, the decay. We're capturing all those sorts of elements. And so without TrueCinema turned on, you're going to get like a generic room model that we have built, which is sort of like a blend of this room tweaked to perfection. So even without TrueCinema, you're going to get sort of a convincing, like I said at the beginning, you're in the sweet spot of the perfect home theatre system. And then when you turn TrueCinema on, what it does is, of course, it just takes it up a notch. So if you were to look at this measurement here, you can see the difference that takes place in different rooms. So here in the lower frequency, you can see maybe this was a larger room, or maybe this room had a lot of paneling. And so in the lower bass frequencies, there's a much longer reverb tail. And they're the type of nuances that we've been measuring and looking at and taking note of to think, okay, these are really important things to capture to make it feel and sound like your room, versus using a more generic model of almost like a perfect room with no sort of additions needed. So without going into too much detail, it's just to give you some visuals to understand, okay, TrueCinema is actually like mapping your room and blending some of that EQ into the mix. But we also, again, to try and remain authentic to create content, we don't want to replicate if your room is ginormous, we don't want it to sound bad. So we have to try and find the perfect balance of making it sound like your room, but also not destroying the mix, if that makes sense.
You got another question?
Yeah, of
You're a
course.
closed back headphone, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And the soundstage is really within your head. With
Correct.
the Dolby content that I heard, it was a little bit further out.
Yep.
Does this move it even further out, or is it still fairly close in?
So the TrueCinema isn't going to affect the binaural rendering. It's still going to be very, very spatial. But within the blend of that, it's just to convince you that in a familiar space that you're listening. So if you're listening in someone else's room, it probably wouldn't be as recognizable instantaneously because you're not so au fait with how that room sounds. But there is an element where we just feel like people know what a room should sound like when they're sat in it based on the materials around them. So the spatial is still going to be as wide, and especially with the head tracking and all those elements kind of amplifying that. But we'll get to play around with that downstairs.
So there's a big part of the market at the moment which are older people who find it hard to listen to dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
And they also find it hard to listen to a TV show or a movie at a lower volume that everybody else is finding comfortable, but they don't because they're more hard of hearing.
Yeah.
This kind of product, can I put the headphones on, listen to people talking in the room through the ambient noise capture,
Yeah.
turn my volume up and turn the vocal, the dialogue up as well as the person wearing the headphones, plus have everybody else in the room still listen to the movie I'm watching.
I thought that's where you were going to go with it. So it's funny she said it. So the answer is no. At the moment, we don't have out loud and TV audio swap.
Yeah.
But of course, you can imagine the more we go through listening sessions like this, the more feedback we're getting, and we're realizing, oh, actually, people are looking at this as like an accessibility feature versus the don't disturb the neighbours feature.
Yeah.
So we've taken note of that feedback.
I'd whack that one at the top of the list because that group also tend not to have mortgages, especially in this country. They tend to be able to just spend money on whatever it is going to fix the problem for them. And if this is a high-end product and you're running around out there saying, hey, this solution is there and this will solve the problem for you not being able to watch a movie with your partner or family or whatever, then just sit back and wait for it to run off the shelf. Because
I can see Rebecca taking notes.
that is a massive challenge as the population is aging.
Yeah, I mean, I see it in my parents. Like, my dad has the subtitles on, and my mum's like, great, you're ruining the show.
Just to be clear, the volume is not independently adjustable from the soundbar.
It's independently adjustable, but the soundbar can't play out loud at the same time as you're listening on headphones.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So what we try to do is when you swap, so we try to match the volume. So if you're listening loud, we want you to feel like there was almost no swap, that you continued listening. So if ARC is loud, Duke will be loud. If ARC is low, Duke will be lower. But then you can adjust the volume, of Ace. I knew someone was going to do it today. You can adjust the volume of Sonos Ace in the app once you've done the swap. And then when you swap back, it will actually match Sonos Arc to where the level you're at.
I take it's just one pair of headphones?
Yes, that's right. Yeah, we've also looked at that, but in terms of a user feature, we wanted to focus on making sure we got that dialed in. It's a more common user case scenario than having multiple people in a room sort of anti-socially wearing headphones together.
It's quite common.
Yeah, that's your second thing on the list.
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
It's probably number 2 on the list, or equally number 1.
How many kids do you have?
2.
Yeah, there's your answer right there.
Yeah.
I mean, because you guys are in a strong position with it. You got a sound bar, you bring out a set of headphones which are talking directly to the sound bar, and you can update your sound bar after people have bought it, right? So if you're gonna come out with this stuff and you target the modes of the product to the customers that are out there. I mean, look, there's a lot of audiophiles out there. I don't doubt that, but I know for a fact that there are a lot of people aging in the community who just want to watch a freaking movie, hear what they're talking, hear what they're saying, and not have to blast the audio through the roof to be able to achieve it. And if you're able to provide that, then they're going to look to you. They're going to spend their money with you. They will.
I don't disagree. I think doing what we've done is very difficult, and then trying to do it on multiple different levels gets even more difficult.
Yeah.
But I promise you, we're thinking about it.
Yeah, no, look, it's just feedback.
I mean,
Yeah.
I would also add to that, Charlie, that you should probably spend some time talking to our home cinema expert here, Scott Fink, who can tell you a little bit more about the things that we do to make audio, as in the words, more discernible.
Yeah.
And then night mode for the people that have got kids. But I hear you on the accent thing as well, and the subtitle thing. I think that that's also one of our key features of our home theatre.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Great.
Have a chat to him.
All right, I'm going to wrap up and then we're going to give you an opportunity to go downstairs and listen. So just to close out, so from the user experience perspective, you can see we have some screenshots of our all-new Sonos app, which launched this week. It's very, very simple. You connect Sonos Ace to the Sonos app, and then your compatible soundbar, which in this instance at launch is going to be Sonos Ace with, Sonos Arc with iOS. And then it's quite simple. You push that content key that we talked about, and that will swap the sound from Arc to Sonos Ace. You press it again, it will swap it back, and then you can turn on and off within the app spatial audio and head tracking. And so I talked about the fact that we're able to take stereo content and upscale to spatial. We can actually go the other way. So we can turn off spatial audio, which will turn off head tracking, and then you'll actually get just a straight stereo stream.
You just mentioned iOS. Is that the only app at the moment?
At launch, but Android will be a fast follow for all of these features alongside Beam Gen 2 and Ray.
Including TrueCinema?
TrueCinema is also a fast follow across the board, but we're going to give you an early preview of it today.
Which one's the content button?
So the content key is this jewelry-like silver button here, and that's so that is, volume up, volume down. But then for home theatre, you press it will actually skip. So it has multiple different functions that it.
So I guess how does it know? Because this is probably going to turn it on. It's going to pair with your phone.
So when you're paired via home theatre, pressing won't stop the TV content. Whereas when you're paired for Bluetooth to your phone, pressing will pause the music.
How? So you've got to connect in the app.
You don't have to do anything. Basically, once it's in pairing mode, it will show up in your app, and then you just connect to it, and then we do the rest. We know that you're connected, and then we change the functionality of the button.
I don't know if I fully understand. So like, if I'm connected most of the time to my phone, I'm listening to music, I go home.
Yeah.
I turn on my TV and it connects to that, or do I have to just manually?
So the first time what you have to do is, SONOS Ace works like Bluetooth out of the box, like any other pair of headphones.
Yeah.
So to get it connected to the SONOS app, you have to actually connect it to the SONOS app. You put it in pairing mode. When you're at home, your phone's on Wi-Fi, your phone's connected to the SONOS system, and then there's an option to connect. And that's how we do things like over-the-air software updates, change the EQ. So when SONOS Ace is connected to the SONOS app, when you're at home. So if you leave the house and you come back and you open the SONOS app, there'll be an option to reconnect. Once you reconnect, that function becomes TV audio swap as opposed to play pause for music.
Right. I think I understand now. So it's not like it kind of I need to tell it that I want to watch TV now. Because if I'm like vacuuming and using this, then when I watch something on TV,
it's not like a concurrent connection, like Bluetooth and Wi-Fi on Roam and Move.
Gotcha.
There is that connection point, but then when you're listening to music, you can actually. So if you're connected via Bluetooth, you can still open the SONOS app and see what music you're playing and turn on aware mode. So there are functions of the SONOS app which are available off Wi-Fi, and that's why we had to release a whole new SONOS app, because it's unlocked this door for us to take the SONOS app outside of the home essentially.
Got you. Okay, thank you.
I think I touched on this. So essentially, in terms of how you actually set up TrueCinema, it's sort of very similar to TruePlay. You sit on the couch, the app guides you through it. It's going to play a frequency sweep through the soundbar. We're going to listen to that. We're going to do all the EQ adaptation, and then you're off and running. So yeah, that's it. We're so excited to have you here. Very, very excited to show you how we've managed to take 7.1.4 content and play it through SONOS headphones. And ultimately, the most thing we're excited about with this is taking something which people know and love, which is SONOS Home Theatre, and delivering it through our first ever personal listening device, SONOS Ace.
I encourage you to pick up the headphone because this is the first feel of SONOS Ace. I want you to get familiar with the design, the feel. So we have featured sleek matte finishes across the headphone. We've also got premium metal accents that really set off the headphone. It's available in 2 colour SKUs, the soft white and black, SONOS black. You'll see it has detachable ear cups. Adjustable headband. A particularly nice feature about this is the hidden hinge. So you'll see that you don't have to, whereas most headphones would have an external hinging mechanism, this is a particularly nice design in that if you have it on, your head banging to your favourite track, your hair's not going to get snagged in the external hinge. So this is a particularly nice feature. So the headband has been made with very precise curvature to ensure a very comfortable fit, so that the weight is evenly distributed across the head. I think that's the main kind of comfort and design points. I would, as soon as you have this on your head, you're going to feel the pillowy soft interior and just how evenly across it's distributed. And I think it will be really nice. In terms of sound, we've mentioned the connection to the SONOS system is the home theatre experience, which you'll get a chance to try in a little bit. But you also get lossless over Bluetooth and line in. You have ANC, and you'll be able to see we've got a lot of mesh densities and a lot of different vent ports as well. So all of these are working together to be able to block out any of the intrusive noise, and we're actually going to play a little bit of brown noise as well, so you're able to toggle between ANC on and aware mode. So that will be like a really good way to get familiar with the product. So what I really want to draw attention to is the controls. So you have tactile controls on both ear cups. I'll kind of do this to you guys. So this is the contact key.
Yep.
Slide upwards
Yep.
for volume up, slide downwards for volume down.
Yep.
Toggle between ANC on and aware mode for just the control for that. And then this button on the left ear cup is your power on and Bluetooth pairing as well.
Yep.
But these should already be connected up. So once you're powered on, you're already connected.
Amazing, easy.
Yeah, pretty seamless.